to call this meeting to order of the Geneva Historic Preservation Commission for December 17th, 2024. We'll start with a roll call.
Jensen?
Here.
McManus? Phillips?
Here.
Solomon? Here. Stazen?
Here.
Tobler?
Here.
Zelmer?
Here. We have a quorum. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of meeting minutes from November 19th, 2024. Does anyone have any revisions? Or if not, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the meeting minutes.
And,
Second.
Okay, thank you. And then, all in favor? Or you want to call the roll, I guess?
Jensen?
Aye. Oh, yes.
Phillips?
Aye.
Solomon?
Aye.
Stazen?
Abstain.
Tobler?
Aye.
Zelmer?
Abstain. Motion carries. The next item is a concept review at 501 Hamilton Street, case number 2024-084. Jackie, if
All
you can
right.
introduce it.
I do apologize for not having a 5-minute field guide. I thought with the agenda being a little long, we shouldn't have it, but next time, get ready. But for 501 Hamilton today, we have a potential residential expansion. We have both the owner and the architect here with us today, so I'm sure, about to ask some questions or answer some questions. But I'm going to go through it briefly before we ask the experts. So the original owners were John and Julia Kelly. Julia sold 2 lots in 1884 for a whopping $200. Love that. In 1882, W.H. Smith sold the property to Charles Sunleaf, a Swedish immigrant, for $600. Mr. Sunleaf moved to Geneva in 1883. He likely built a 2-story house on the property with a mortgage within the same year. The house stayed within the Sunleaf family for many years, through inheritance and all of that jazz. In 1952, Genevieve and Maurice Mann bought the property. They invested $2,500 in improvements. They owned it until around the 1960s. By the 2010s, the first floor housed several businesses, including a realty group and later the Geneva Financial Corporation. So it's had a lot of different uses, and it's had a lot of additions. A 1999 Historic Resource Survey noted significant modifications to the exterior of the structure, but it still remains a contributing property to the Geneva Historic District, So the applicant seeks feedback on a conceptual design for converting a commercial space into a residential home for the family. The aim is to adapt the existing structure to meet personal living needs while preserving its historical character. In addition to the design process, the applicant is working with the state to apply for historic tax benefits, ensuring the renovation aligns with preservation guidelines and maximizes financial incentives. For the project overview, currently the proposed plans are to demolish the existing garage for a new garage that will be incorporated into the proposed western addition to the house. The new garage will be a part of a planned property expansion. Additionally, the applicant intends to relocate the primary entrance to the house to face North 5th Street. A northern addition to the house will also provide extra living space. The proposed changes comply with the City of Geneva's zoning regulations, including setbacks, building height, and lot coverage. So for this slide, this is essentially the architectural site plan. This kind of goes over what the proposed additions will look like in terms of how it's going to fit onto the lot, and it also kind of highlights that proposed new entrance. Bless you. This is what they're planning on doing in the interior. All of this thus far has been really favored upon through the state. A lot of the additions that they're making, they've kind of got the go-ahead on, so that's pretty good. Here is what the north elevation is going to look like with the older house and with that new expansion. We have the west elevation here, as well as the south that includes that the garage that's included into the house. And then we have the east elevation. questions, comments? If y'all want to come up. If you need to move through them, just let me know.
Sounds good. Jackie, thanks for the backstory and introduction. My name's Matthew Mayer. I'm the owner of the property at 501 Hamilton. Currently reside at 218 Peyton Street, just a few blocks over for more reasons than we probably have time this evening. Going to be making this primary residence in the future. So that's kind of what this game plan is that's being presented this evening conceptually, is to sort of take what was a commercial building and convert it back to a primary single-family home. The hope is, to maintain the integrity of the historic property and hopefully be able to secure another tax freeze. We went through the same process with the Peyton House and had a very good experience working with not only this commission, but also the state of Illinois Historic Preservation. We're going to do everything we can to maintain the integrity of the home, and I'm going to turn it over to Brad in order to kind of articulate some of those points and kind of walk you through a little bit more of the design, as he's the expert and I'm kind of just sort of the behind-the-scenes individual. All right? Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Brad Salins. I'm with BDS Architecture. I've been working with Matt for probably about 2 months now to come up with some conceptual designs. As he stated, Jackie stated, this building's been a lot of different uses. We're just trying to get it back to residential and kind of streamline that, make it efficient for Matt and his family, and also comply with Geneva and state historic guidelines on it. Working with the state, we're ongoing with that progress. Haven't got a lot of feedback yet, but we're just getting to the point where we've got something to actually comment on, and had the opportunity to come to this meeting and present it to everyone here. And just looking for some general feedback on feasibility or any concerns that the commission sees outright that we can adjust now early in the process. I will just turn it over for questions.
I do have a question.
Certainly. Joel?
Okay. So the current entryway is on the south side of the house.
Correct. There is a porch and an ADA accessible entrance that faces Hamilton Street on the south side of the current use of the building.
Okay.
We have not been able to determine, and I know Jackie's done some research, to find where the original entrance is. That porch does show up on some of the old information that we have, but have nothing saying that it was a front door or a back door or when it was even put on. The property has gone through a bunch of renovations over the years, including addition in that area, so it's hard to tell where the original entrance was or how important the entrance on Hamilton was to the building.
Thank you. So by changing the entryway to the front to Fifth Street, which would be the
East.
east side of the
Yes.
house, what would you be removing to put the door in? Would you be removing a window?
There, let me see if I can switch back here. Go the other way. There. Okay. So currently there is a window in that location. That window we would be removing to put the door in. The other change we're doing to the existing structure, since it's up here, is the window that has the text below it there. Is there a pointer or something that I'm missing? Or? Okay. I'll just try to explain. But the window with the text below it, right now, if we can find a picture, you can kind of see it behind the red bush there.
Yes.
There's a couple windows, and we believe that's been moved, so we're proposing to go back to the original 4-window setup on that elevation. That sunroom over the porch that we know is not original to the home, we're going to propose to remove that and take it off and just go back to a porch roof on that area. then this is the window in question on the right there, lower level behind the bush, that we would be removing and putting the front door in that location.
Is that window original, do you know?
I believe that the original location is probably a window. I believe also that a lot of the windows have been replaced over the years and changed and moved or resized. So the window itself, I don't think is original to the building.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Do you know what, have there been additions to the building, and do you know what they are?
Yes, there have. I don't know exactly what they are. I have speculation from being in the home. I know Jackie's found some information on permitting. I don't know if you exhausted that search now, or if you've,
So from our permitting perspective, we can almost confirm, if I can have the picture. They believe that the side with the sunroof and the entrance, that was considered an addition. The foundation also looks extremely different and newer than what is on that right side of the house.
I would confirm the same thing in my experience from being in the home. There is a foundation wall that divides the gable area that you see here from the gable that extends out to the west. And it was punched through at one point, and it is a different foundation type. So I would speculate that's an addition. I don't know the age of that addition.
Jackie, do you know the age of this Sanborn map here? I was just curious about that.
I believe that was 1915,
Okay,
in the 1910s.
pretty early then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. I have other questions, but if you,
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
actually, I just forgot them. So you have not been to the state with any of these, the design of any of these additions yet?
We've sent some of this to the state. We haven't sent this full packet of information and haven't had a conversation about that. We've been working with Darius there. His question is the location of the front door. So, and until we find that,
Yeah.
if we find that, I don't have an answer for him. But generally, he's been in agreement with what we've been proposing, and we're just trying to keep it moving forward with him as well.
The interesting part to this is also that the Geneva History Center has no historic images of this property. I've asked probably 3 times, and every time they're like, nope, sorry. So,
Step up to the,
hey. Okay, so there's no historic images of this property. Even if you look from a different street, from a different angle, there's nothing available. But there is like a lot of written text that support that there have been a lot of additions. So that's kind of an interesting facet to this whole. So I'll get it.
yeah. There, do you have additional comments?
I just personally, from my opinion, looking at, what we have so far, the mass of the additions, especially on the Hamilton side, seems excessive to me. I'm pretty much okay with what we have on the Fifth Street side. I would probably prefer to have that set back from the facade of the house, just to show a little bit more separation there, if that was possible. But the garages and that basically apartment above, it's basically at the same
It's the same plane of.
same plane as the
Yeah.
rest of the house. There's no separation there. The height is, even though it might be to code, it looks like it's a little bit taller than the house itself. So I'm just struggling a little with the mass of that addition, and the fact that neither of them seem to be adequately separated from the historic house.
So I understand and I appreciate the feedback. The porch, it's hard to tell in 2 dimensions here. The porch that you can see there with the roof is recessed and provides a break from the original home that we think. But we did move the garage wall plane up. Part of the reasoning for doing that is to capture a backyard, to be able to have a usable backyard for the family. We're also have talked about doing things to lessen the mass of that garage two-story wall, either bringing a roof across it, possibly the doorway on the end is a staircase going up to the unit up there, possibly dropping a roof down on that area to break up the larger wall plane. Again, we're in concept review, so it's not fully detailed out, but these are things we're exploring and definitely looking for the feedback. Same thing on the Fifth Street side, if I can get to that. This is pushed back some. There's another elevation here that shows it a little bit, if I can find it. So, but you can see it here on the left side. The little triangle sticking out is the new porch roof over the new entryway, and we did push it back from the building about a foot. But trying to maintain space up there and connection to the original home that works with some sort of layout that can provide functional space on the inside.
Was there ever any thought of like changing the roof like to a different, instead of a gable or, to provide some kind of separation in that area? I don't know whether something like a hip roof or something like that would work.
It has not been considered, mainly because the existing building is all gables, and to stay with the continuity of that, it's something we could certainly explore. My brain tells me that it would look odd, changing one roof or maybe even two roofs, but it's something we can look at.
Look like a duplex.
I agree with your comment about, I think the garage that really needs to be scaled down. I think that at a minimum, the roof line has to be lower than the existing peak that's beyond there. And I think that there's ways you can do that. You can start to drop the plate in there.
Right.
And, that would help you with, you probably don't have lot coverage issues, because it sounds like it's doable.
Correct.
With this, but that would actually help you with lot coverage too, because it used to be that the zoning was 20 foot above grade, and that's where you drew a line, and whatever the floor line was at that point would help you. So I think try dropping that. I mean, there's ways you can do the windows to work on that face to get those windows at the same head height. But the mass of that front is really difficult, I think. I think I do agree with Kevin also. I mean, ideally, we'd want to have that pushed back far enough that you would have a break between the garage and the existing porch there. Not the existing porch, but what I would think of the main part of the house. So that would push it back quite a ways. I mean, it looks like it's about 5 feet. So.
Yeah, it would be about 6 feet back, I was going
Yeah.
to say.
But that would be, when we look at, what we try to look at is the fact that we want to have the house that you can kind of tell what the existing house was. I think the best example of that is actually Graham's 318, where you can see what the existing house was because there are breaks and everything's back behind. And I think that was very successful in how the architect handled that. So I think that I do see the break on the east side, or the northeast addition there. I think that's probably enough. Again, it's, one of the issues is that you're dealing with something that's, the roof height of the north elevation is taller there too. And maybe think about dropping the plate at that point too. so that you can actually get that roof down, because I think it just kind of makes the house, makes the existing house become the secondary part of, and the additions the primary. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost, the additions are, I don't know what the square footage is, but they're, much larger than the original house itself, obviously. So, it's just the distinction there between the two sets of, or types of structures, I don't think is there. Or if you could look at that and,
Sure.
Yeah, I think dropping the plate on the additions might help that considerably. Would do that, just as an idea. Again, we're not here to design it, but that's how people have handled that in the past.
Yeah, and that is a conversation we have touched on, so we can explore that a little bit further.
I think another successful building that has a lot of additions that are, equally as high is that, I think currently it's a antique store on the corner of Hamilton and Fourth.
Not too far from there.
Yeah, right next to Villa Verone. I mean, there's a lot of large additions, but they're all set back on that corner lot. Was there ever any thought of taking the garage in the apartment above and, situating it where the existing garage is, kind of like a
Secondary
accessory
structure.
dwelling unit?
Yeah, well, I see that you must have a different zoning in that is this a multifamily zoning area?
Yeah, this is the multifamily, I gotta find it here, but this property is zoned different than the one to the north, and
Correct.
I think, yeah, this is in the RSCM, residentially scaled commercial mixed use.
Which
So
you
it's a
can't
blend.
have you can have an apartment basically connected at that point, I believe.
I believe so. The reason for connecting the garage instead of putting it out where the other one is getting back and forth. If you're using it for residence,
Right, and for a family.
yeah,
That would be.
easier access into the home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just bring that up just because obviously that would cause a great separation and
Yeah.
distinction between the
Yes, for sure.
addition and the building.
Thoughts, George?
Yeah, I think, I agree with you about, about the distinction, because when we had the Graham's deal come up to us, basically, as kind of like this, the old building was getting swallowed up into the new building because you lost the distinction between the two aspects, and then it was pushed back. And I think in the end, the owners were even like happy the way that turned out, because it kept the originality of the original house, bungalow, whatever it originally was. But yeah, I think, I think roof heights should be, at a minimum at the same level. A little bit shorter would definitely show a little more distinction and not have the two additions overpower that. I get the need for space, I understand that part, but I think as Paul suggested, you could do it in a way without really sacrificing that.
Yeah, and our goal would be more to lower plate lines and roof lines than try to push it back, because again, the backyard is part of the valuable. It's
Got it.
high traffic area, and to get a little privacy in the backyard. So I'm much more willing to explore that, and if we have to push it a little bit, so be it. But I think we can look at options with plate lines and roof lines that
Yeah.
will provide a difference.
George, any,
Well, so some of the comments made provoked more thought from me than anything, but originally, I don't know if it was Jackie or who, said preserve the existing character. And so, looking at this, could you summarize the main features from a design perspective? What were some of the things when we talk about preserve existing character for the new addition? I'm making assumptions now. Is the siding identical to the existing? Is the roof pitch the same? Are the shingles? So have we mirrored or copied all the original materials? Or is there some differentiation in some of that? And what to you triggers preserve existing character?
Sure.
I
The-
guess.
The materials discussion hasn't been too in-depth yet. But to that point, a lot of what we would intend to do is to match the character that's there, match the siding size. My understanding is that the siding that's up there now is more of the original. I think it was sided over at one point or done something, and then it's, you can look behind like the electrical panel or the electrical meter, and there's aluminum siding that's been cut off, and now the wood siding is back exposed. So our intention would be to match as much of that properties as can be. Same thing with the roof lines and the pitches of the roof to that
Because
point.
there is a potential there in complementary materials to differentiate without trying to make it identical.
Yep.
But the thing that, you know, it just, architects, you know, that we're all into symmetry. And are there two windows on this project that are identical? I've never seen so many different shapes and sizes and spacings in my entire life. Now you do have symmetry, obviously, on your additions, but the rest of it, how that, you know, and if we look at character, a lot of times we do look at windows, and I don't know what the heck happened. It's probably all these additions.
I was gonna say, the existing windows, we've tried to just preserve those and get those back to as close to original as possible. Part of the other concern is we have to comply with today's codes versus
Yeah.
codes 100 years ago, and egress windows in bedrooms are bigger now.
But even, you know, since two of these elevations are visible from the street, which is our main purview, even the the street elevations of the existing do not have the same kind of windows. Size-wise, if I look at your drawings here, so I'm just trying to, you know, if preserve the character in these additions, that to me is the biggest challenge, because there's a lot, it's pretty busy for a little building.
We have focused our efforts on the looks of the two street elevations, much
Yeah.
more than the other ones. The other elevations are more a product of the function of the space inside, and we've tried to maintain the existing windows outside. To that point, replacing this double window back to the original single to match the other three was important. We thought the commission would want to do that as well. The one above the porch seems to match those sizes. It's just buried in the porch right now, or the sunroom above.
Somewhere, someplace, two are gonna match, probably,
Right.
just by the variety that's there. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, I guess to get a real feeling to this, yeah, you know, the comments are made were on the massing and the shape, and I can pretty much buy in with all that, but I would like to see more of the fully rendered solution to see how the architectural and finished character of the addition either complements, and I don't think, based on what everybody else, I'm paraphrasing for everybody here, but I don't think we'd like to see just an exact replication of the materials and finishes that are on the existing. I think that would even create more of a challenge to separate the characters.
Yeah, I mean, if, for instance, the garage, if that couldn't be set back further, you know, to create that separation, then maybe it could be done with materials.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the places that did happen is the parsonage for the St. Mark's Church, where they actually went to a totally different siding type
Don't
And they-
get me started
they
on
would-
that.
I know
Yeah.
that's kind of a sore subject with
Right.
us as a group, but that was a good way to differentiate an addition to, and actually it was an addition, a historically sensitive addition, I believe, by the time it came in before us. But you can look at something like that, and that has some, I believe that would be a good one to look at, because it does have a lower eave on it too.
Now, are all the shutters coming off the old, on the windows, the photos? Yeah, well,
I don't think there are any
oh,
shutters.
there aren't.
I don't
Where-
recall
Where
any.
Some
did I
photos,
see?
yeah, on here,
Where
It's
did
on
I
the
see-
first
here, there's shutters
page.
here, but this is an earlier photo.
So-
I presume.
So
Oh.
this was the reason I stepped up here again.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
showing the aluminum or the vinyl siding that was on the home maybe
okay.
I've owned the home for 2 years. So probably 3.5 or 4 years ago is when Rule 24, whoever owned it previously, they were removing the siding, and that's when they exposed the existing siding, or the original siding as being still present. And then they were obligated, because of the rules of the Geneva preservation, to restore that and paint that and maintain that. So that's currently what you now see today, is that cedar siding that's on the side of the home, this blue that's exposed there. If we think that using an alternative material and a different lap size and even a different orientation helps in order to differentiate between the existing and the future, I would be all for that. Relative to the Peyton house, I thought it turned out pretty nice in terms of like maintaining the lap, and we had existing similar, we had aluminum siding, removed it, exposed the existing cedar, and then we matched that lap on the addition as it projected out the back of the home. I thought it turned out pretty nice, but again, if you think that that's something that would help in terms of scaling down the massing and finding those architectural breaks, I think that's something that Brad and I can explore.
Can't say for sure, but yeah, that's.
So, and
My preference would be to scale it down and move it wherever you can
sure, in
first.
terms of
And
profile
if that's
first,
impossible
right?
for you, that might be another consideration that could be acceptable. Your house on Peyton, that's all in the back.
Right, yeah.
That's not much of a street side kind of,
Sure.
visibility there. So it's a little different, and, you did a great job there on that siding and continuing it back onto that addition. That was
Appreciate it.
very nice.
All of a sudden, though, it's gonna be, effectively, both of those elevations will double in size. The east is a little smaller, but the south, holy moly, it's
gonna
a
get
lot
bigger,
bigger.
for sure.
And again, if we're looking for character of that structure, even though it morphed a few times, I think that is a real challenge to, somehow preserve the character of what's there with that scale of additions.
We'll get it done.
But that's where the architecture comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that you have some challenges, but I think you could probably get there, because if you look around the city of what we've done, or what's been done in the past, you can kind of get some ideas about how to pull stuff down and reduce the scale on it, and I think that would help considerably.
I don't want to eat up more time on the agenda than we have, but I've heard plate referred to a few times. What are we talking about when we say lower the plate?
The plate is the top of the wall
like-
where the rafters come off.
So like
So-
this is the top plate of the wall.
Okay,
Saying like
So
we
it would
drop
bring
it
the
down to bring the
rafters,
roof down a little
to bring
bit.
the roof down.
got it.
And, it basically becomes a story and a half house versus the full story, a full two-story, but it brings down you still have the same livable area within that space, especially on the garage side. I think that you should really look at that pretty hard, because I think that's And unfortunately, I
Instead of having
started
the
to act like an
two-story wall, if
architect
we
up here.
Start the
so-
roof here and then maybe
Would
put
dormers
dormers up.
potentially come into
for
play
that.
I
with
think
that
you
kind of
could,
thing?
you
that-
would,
Right.
you would definitely break through
I can
to
show you
get
some
your
options.
dormers to get the
Okay.
windows in there.
But we
It's-
don't think dormers would be opposed if that was something that
I think
introduced.
that's a
in-
different character. I mean, it would change the character enough to say that's an addition, I believe. You know, that's,
Okay.
if you look at something like the, over at the parsonage over at St. Mark's, they've done, that's where that has been done too.
Or
And they-
flatten the roof line too, change
Yeah,
the pitch
exactly,
on
and when you
that.
start to do some
May
things,
help
things
with
like that.
differentiation, the massing on that roof, well, obviously it's a two-dimensional elevation, but when you look at the south elevation there, and you just take proportionally the amount of roof, even though it is on a sloped plane, that's a lot of roof.
Next time, we're gonna show the existing as being black and the proposed as being white. And I think it's gonna help. a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah, flip it and
Exactly.
grade out the addition.
Your next one,
Alright.
yeah, every time you learn something.
Especially with
on
the
that,
lights here,
yeah,
it's hard to see
exactly.
any of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair
But I think it's a
But-
good idea, as Paul said, to like walk around the neighborhood and see what
Well,
else.
I was gonna say, I appreciate the references you're giving. I'm from Geneva too, so I know a lot of them, but to actually really study them and look at the
Yeah, in
characteristics
this
you guys
light,
are
it's,
talking
yeah,
about.
it's different.
So if you have any, by all means, let us know and we'll take a look at those too.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Good deal.
But do you think you have everything you need to continue?
Yeah, this was preliminary, put some images up there to talk about, so it's
You
very good
can't, you
feedback.
gotta put something up so
Right.
we can react to it. So,
There you go.
Yeah, or at least start to react to it. So,
Good deal.
thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So you
Okay.
guys want to get the minutes, I'll send you
Yeah.
over immediately. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we have a permit review for 122 Hamilton Street, potential window replacement, case number 2024-085.
This is
guess
you,
that's
right?
how
Okay,
that
perfect, okay. All right. I'm gonna give a very, very brief history. This building was originally Martin Seastrom's business. He was an established general contractor here in Geneva around 1919 to like mid-1920s. He did a lot of work here in Geneva. I would give you guys examples, I'll email them to you, but that's a part of the history is that he did a lot of work here in Geneva. Over the years, the property has changed ownership. It used to be a beauty salon. It used to be very briefly kind of a doctor's office situation. But in 2022, it became Perla, a really great antique store if you have the chance to go in. But in 2024, the shop caught fire, requiring substantial repairs. And a lot of them, I'm going to assume, was internal. And then today we're going to be talking about the two windows that were pretty damaged in the fire. But the request is, the applicant is requesting approval to replace the two windows in the front facade of the home that were charred in the most recent fire. These windows are not original or historic to the property. They actually have a approved permit from the HPC in 2012 saying that they could replace the windows. The applicant has completed the Geneva window replacement checklist. He provided information that was needed for the proposed replacement. The commission is to determine if the window replacement is in compliance with the Secretary of Interior Standards of Rehabilitation and the Geneva Historic District Guidelines. And then here, that's an older picture of what this building looks like. It obviously has changed paint colors, but that is the only picture we have of these two windows that are visible. And then that is the one on the right is the most recent images that were provided by the applicant. The windows now are a double hung vinyl clad wood window. Like I said before, the windows are approximately 12 years old. The dimensions of each window, windows are 38 by 57 double hung windows with interior colonial, is it colonial? Anywho, grill, pattern vinyl inserts, approximately 25 by 30. To each. Per the applicant, there is no specialty glass features, and the original hardware is the 12-year-old standard metal locking mechanism. Within the staff report, they sent an image of what the of what the window is going to look like. They are still going to be, it's essentially vinyl clad wood double hung window, 1 light per sash. The dimensions are essentially the same, correct? Correct. There's not going to be any special characteristics other than the high insulating double pane glass. And then the proposed hardware is going to look similar to what is in the picture. And then I'm going to invite my friend up here to talk about the windows.
Hello,
If you could state your name.
Michael Baisden, I'm with Emergency Construction Group.
Hey.
So basically, we're replacing the windows that were, they had some charring to the wood frame and the interior of them. But the source of the fire was real close to these 2 windows. And we're essentially just putting back the same windows that are in there currently. They're just, a newer version. I think they might have better insulating quality or something, but even 12 years ago, they were pretty high. So there's really not much of a difference at all. We're basically replacing them with same like kind of quality.
And I'm assuming that the information you gave didn't show lights, but it'll have integral lights like they did before, the inserts?
The grid inserts, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't show them on the Home Depot picture that I took
Yeah.
up, but yeah, so basically those grids will be replaced with grids to match the other windows on the front elevation.
Okay.
And those are internal between the 2 panes, or are they,
Yes, they are,
and that's consistent with the other windows?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's probably more important to match the existing windows
Yeah.
than,
Yes, I agree.
Right.
yeah. So, and you're not changing the size of the opening or anything like that?
We're not
so-
doing it, no. We just want to pull them out and put the new ones in, basically, just replacement windows.
Any questions from anybody to the commission?
Nope. Since they aren't the original or historical, I don't have any questions.
Yeah, right, okay.
Okay. I don't see any issues. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve the window replacement as proposed for 122 Hamilton Street.
Second,
Roll.
Jensen,
aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Solomon,
Aye.
Stazen,
Aye.
Tobler,
Aye.
Zelmer.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thanks for
Thank you.
coming in.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is 102 South Second Street, case 2024-86, Unitarian Universalist Society of Geneva, proposed door replacement. Jackie?
Okay, so we just recently learned all about this structure. I don't want to excuse me. I don't want to tell you guys the history again. But very briefly, we recently reviewed this history in depth for this location. The structure is a really great representation of how historic buildings can take on additions and where those additions can also be historically significant. This church has seen a lot of additions by, Jack Bronson, a very prolific architect, and improvements such as the window replacement that was approved last September. So the applicant is requesting to replace the existing aluminum storefront door, the side lights, and the transom at the James Street entrance with a pre-hung Pitco manufactured storefront door unit with laminated privacy glass to resist vandalism and reduce potential injury. The reason for this request was in 2024, they received a grant from the Department of Homeland Security to enhance the facility's physical security through a nonprofit security grant program. There are several objectives to replacing this door. The new door unit will have laminated glass to resist vandalism and reduce injury from explosions. The replacement door will feature insulated frame for better energy efficiency. And where this door is situated, they do require a little bit more privacy. So the new door and side lights will have privacy glass, replacing the window film to obscure the interior view. The applicant also provided a historic photo of the building with the door visible. This is from the 1990s. And then here is the proposed door to be replaced. Here's the exterior images. We have some interior images as well. And then this is kind of what the replacement door will look like. It is going to be a storefront entrance with a thermal flush glaze, which is pretty important to, I guess, the heating, cooling, that I can't think of the term right now, but the door will look a little bit different than before. However, there will be no massive changes to the overall size of the door or the overall area. And then here is a proposed replacement door drawing of kind of what the door will be looking like in terms of size. I'm gonna invite my friend up to talk more.
Good evening. My name's Kevin O'Neill. I'm with the Unitarian Universalist Society of Geneva. And I think Jackie did a very good job of describing what we want to do. For the most part, it's just a like-for-like replacement of the door to make it more secure than it currently is.
When was the door installed originally?
Do you know?
1956.
It has
No.
to be before the permitting process because we don't have a permit of when it was done. However, it would have to be before,
Jackie?
I'm sorry. It would have to be like mid to late 80s is when that door was added. We didn't really get super proficient in permitting until the early 90s, so.
Okay.
So Bronson never had a door there when he originally designed it?
Correct.
So it's a replacement of a door that isn't historically significant, so,
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of issues with it. Does anyone have a problem with it?
Replacing a non-historic door with another non-historic door, okay.
Yes, exactly. I think that's, I mean, I was gonna bring up the fact that the lights on the original door, if you look at the picture on page 27, I believe it is, or something, they go vertically there, and the replacement, they go, the transoms all the way across, but I don't know whether that's a defining feature or not. I don't think it matters that much. It's one,
Negatory.
so. But, so if I can, unless anyone's got any issues, we get I think the key would be is that we're replacing a door that wasn't historic to begin with, so there shouldn't be any issues with it.
I motion to approve the door replacement at 102 South Second Street as presented.
Second that.
Okay, call the roll.
Jensen,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Solomon,
Aye.
Stazen,
Aye.
Tobler,
Aye.
Zillmer.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.
Have a good evening.
I'll send you the email of the permit
Okay.
tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is 522 Franklin Street, case 24097, review of siding on a non-contributing structure.
Okay, so last month we had Miss Leah come forward and propose the demolition of her garage. That was approved with the consideration that it was hardy board all over. She is now back to propose a mixed material on her garage. I'm just going to read the request. The applicant's plans were approved last month with the condition that hardy board be used on the entire building as outlined in the submitted plans. The applicant is now requesting approval to use the same clapboard material currently on the house and install matching vinyl siding on the sides that are not visible to the public. So the proposed front facade material, the applicant plans to use the same cedar siding, the same material that is currently used on the home. More specifically, it will be a bevel-edged cedar lap with a 4.5-inch reveal. The proposed side material, which once again, it's not visible, is going to be a CertainTeed Restoration Smooth double 4.5-inch clapboard siding on the facades, on the side facades, excuse me. The total cost estimate to do cedar on the front and then vinyl on the sides is $43,272. The total cost estimate to do it as proposed with hardy board is $52,773. Her plans were updated. They have the official copy with the building department that showcases the front facade being cedar and the side being vinyl. And the back would be vinyl as well.
Jewel, do you want to comment?
Yes, I will comment. Because the front of the garage is the only portion of the garage that's visible to us, I like the idea of it maintaining the cedar siding, and if she wants to do the vinyl on the sides and on the back, we shouldn't be commenting on that, I don't feel, because it's not visible from the street. It is a very high quality vinyl, I had to look it up. And I also previewed another document that we use as a resource. And I personally don't have a problem with her doing that.
I also don't think I really brought it home enough in my presentation, but essentially what she found in terms of like the reveal is almost identical to what's on the house, which I think is a pretty difficult task, and I think it was done pretty well.
Yes.
I have no problem with the vinyl on the three sides either. And I think that's great that you're gonna use the clapboards on the front. That'll be a big cost savings, and that will go well with the house. I'm just curious from a technical standpoint, how did, when the wood matches the vinyl at the corners, how is that sealed? Is that just a caulking issue there, or how does that?
I'm
work?
wondering whether the drawings are not as detailed as they could be, because they're usually are corner boards, and I don't know whether I should look at the original house.
Yeah, you'd have to see a detail
Yeah.
on how they're gonna do that.
See,
Yeah.
the house has the metal brackets.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I actually believe that they mentioned a metal bracket actually in the permit. Hold on.
Okay.
Now, I didn't look at this, but I find it kind of difficult to believe that you can only see the front elevation without seeing partial sides.
Can't. Did you go by it?
No, but I
Way in the
mean,
back.
it is way in the back.
It's way in the back.
so if you're off 20 degrees from true on, you're not gonna see part of the sides?
I think
Not
there's
underneath the
vegetation and other things on the sides there, and then one side covers up
All
the
right, I'll
house.
take your words for it.
Yeah. I've walked by there many times.
Okay. I don't walk by it, so if you don't have a
Yeah,
problem with it,
I don't know
I guess
whether-
I don't
Yeah.
either, but I find it hard to believe that you can't, particularly above the bushes, unless they go all the way to the eave line, that you can't see part of this.
It's
Yeah.
set back pretty far.
Yeah.
Okay,
And the laps are gonna match.
I know, but the texture in terms of,
Well,
was
it'll be-
one glossier than,
Well,
are they all equally in terms of, okay, I haven't seen the samples of those two materials either.
Well, I haven't seen them in person, but I did go online and look them up.
Okay, well, I think I would like to, in the future, see samples of that may help.
Yeah, that would. So our siding policy.
Oh, it's coming, it's at the very end.
I know, but currently, our siding policy is to use natural materials. Because we have used hardy board in the past, right?
Right.
I mean, it's new construction, so to me,
Right.
that makes a difference.
It does to me also. I mean, I think
It's a
that's,
secondary, non-contributing building,
yeah,
and, you know,
It's
the
way
newest preservation brief, number 16, that talks about substitute siding and the use of substitute materials. Basically, you know,
It's in there.
has no bias against vinyl, as far as I can tell. Particularly for a building that's, you know, not highly visible from the street side and
yeah.
is new construction. So,
Okay.
I'm cool.
I wasn't at the meeting last week, and I know that, or last month, and I know that we went around a little bit, so.
yeah, I think maybe part of that was because it kind of was a new proposal that was,
Thrown.
you know,
Yeah,
brought to us
right.
that
Yeah,
evening.
yeah,
and
exactly.
Without a lot of information about the vinyl siding, the lab, et
Yeah,
cetera.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount more detail and information that we didn't have before, which is why it was difficult to make a decision. And that's why there was a compromise in terms of being able to take the garage down and start the process of construction before weather became too much of an issue. And then that she was gonna come back in and propose the different materials at a significant cost savings. And basically, she came back with everything that we, at that point, asked for.
On your description here, though, proposed siding, side facade material references the sides, but not the back. It says applicant plans to use smooth, certainty, double siding on side facades.
That was a mistake on my end. She's
Okay.
essentially, the front is the cedar, the rest of the sides are gonna be vinyl.
Oh, okay,
two sides in the back.
In the back.
okay. Gotcha. I thought- Okay.
I think since it's it's an accessory structure, a new structure, I don't see an issue with it, so.
I agree.
If I
I
think,
agree.
do you have anything to add? Andrew?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, if we can get a motion to approve, I guess.
I move to approve the siding on a non-contributing structure at 522 Franklin Street.
Second?
Jensen,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Solomon,
Aye.
Stazen,
Aye.
Tobler,
Aye.
Zelmer.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Rock on.
Okay. Next, we have
Perfect.
our last item, our last permit review, which is 418 South Fifth Street, which I have to be very careful that I don't say 418 South Sixth Street.
You know, when I was looking this up, I kept, in the files, I kept doing 418 South, and I'd be like, there's a ton of information, and then it would be for 6th Street. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
okay, great. All right, so this is gonna be a potential siding replacement for 418 South 5th Street. Limited document, guys, sorry for the reading this evening. Limited historical documentation exists for this property, as it is believed that the house may have been moved to its current site and remodeled back in the early 1920s, before 1923. The original or early siding in the windows date back to this period. The property is notable for its association with architecture, and the property reflects the craftsman style. In 2008, they demolished the garage. In 2009, there was a 2-car addition added to the property. And then in 2010, there was a front porch enclosure. The request is, per the applicant, the request is to remove old siding, trim, and soffit, fascia, and gutters and dispose of old materials, install LP Smart Side, Smart Trim to the existing home with no structural changes and per manufacturer suggestion. All products are to be pre-finished at the Edmund Allen Lumberyard. New aluminum gutters and downspouts to be installed with proper pitching, as well as new raindrop gutter guards. The applicant also sent in the amount of boards that were salvageable for each elevation. The front elevation, the boards salvageable on the front half of the house, and you can probably talk more if you want to come up to tell me exactly where they were. And then on the side with kind of the addition, 8 out of the 22 boards are salvageable. They also provide, like I said before, for each different sections of the house, including the different additions of the boards that were salvageable. Each of them, obviously, because they're a different section, they have a different percentage of being salvageable. And then this is going to be the other side. The applicant also provided detailed photos and descriptions of the deteriorated areas. The current siding is 6-inch lap siding. It's cedar. The current siding that you guys see today is going to be the historic existing side. You guys know what I'm saying. The applicant proposes once again to do a LP Smart Side. Ideally, the homeowner would like a 7-inch lap, but they understand that it has to be 6 as well. So for the cost estimate for the siding to repair and paint is going to be $36,950. And then the cost estimate to do the LP Smart Siding is going to be $62,725. And then we have the contractor here to answer any of your guys' questions.
Hi, I'm TJ Bollinger. I'm president of KNS General Contracting. Grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
So when it says 13 of 58 on the salvageable board, what's wrong with the, I can't do that in my head, 45 boards that are not salvageable?
Yes.
What's the general condition of those?
Dry rot and warp is really the main issues that I have with it. It was difficult to count boards on some of the facets because some of the elevations were multifaceted. I tried to break those up. On the one side that was a 35-foot run, 35-foot long. If I count a board, a 16-foot board, if 4 of that feet of the edge is dry rot and the center's straight and looks good, it was difficult for me to decide, should I cut out the rot and now put an extra seam into the house just to be able to keep the middle of the board, or is that whole board needing to be replaced? And I just erred on the side of being liberal with that, just replacing the whole board. My biggest concern is replacing the dry rotted and warped boards with new fresh cedar boards, and then them not really taking the same shape as the house. So scraping all the old paint and then repainting everything. In my experience doing minor repairs on historical homes in Oak Park doing this, it was pretty obvious from the street which boards had been replaced versus which ones hadn't. And when I was looking at numbers like above 55% of walls totally unsalvageable, I thought that would be a good idea then to just replace it into, a modern high quality product that is really, really low or no maintenance. I love working with LP too because it's a wood product. I'm not always the biggest fan of Hardy. I find Hardy fails a lot more than the LP product does, and it looks a lot less natural. So everything right now is pretty much like for like, angled soffits, angled fascias, the same as on the current home. I want to keep as much of the original structure, as much of the original aesthetic as possible. Just use a more modern material. And then the only aesthetic change is the homeowner, when we were doing our design, I was using a rendering program. She really liked the idea of doing shake in the front gable So we're sort of cutting the siding with a belly band, same color as the siding, and doing an LP shake up top. She's not married to the idea, but I do have renderings of it if you want to see it. It looked pretty nice. But other than that, the only thing that is going to be kind of difficult for me to replicate is any of the quarter round or shoe trimming that's going where, say, like a freeze board meets the soffit. There's an extra piece of trim there. That's custom millwork. LP doesn't do anything beveled like that at all. Everything's pretty much straight. So if there's anything lacking in the original, it'll be that. Will be a little bit more modern, I guess a little bit more minimalist, where boards touch boards without that extra piece of trim. I can always do that extra piece of trim, but that's a really hard sell for my homeowners too, because it's like, well, hey, you don't have to paint your house for 50 years except for this piece of shoe trim all over your house. It's not always the easiest sell for them. So that was kind of my mindset when I was going around counting boards and figuring out if it was replaceable or salvageable. To be perfectly honest with you, if you weren't into LP and seeing the state of the current siding, I would still recommend doing the whole house in real cedar if that was a concern on material. But the idea of replacing 50% of the boards versus not, I don't think it's really gonna look that nice aesthetically.
Yeah, I guess I struggle a little bit with that in that, you know, according to our policy, siding policy, and, you know, information from the National Park Service, you know, preservation guides and that type of thing. You know, the first thing and the primary concern is to repair. And I really commend you for the cost estimate that you provided for that repair, because we rarely see that kind of detail and that, you know, that attention to the repair side
Yeah.
of cost estimates. So like I said, I commend you for that.
Thank you.
So I'm just kind of struggling with the fact that it's much cheaper than the LP Smart side, and it basically, you know, to repair it and to replace the boards that need to be replaced, that really fits into our current siding policy, and there'd have to be some pretty significant reason why we would, or why I would, you know, not want to go that route.
Yeah, sure, and that's totally understandable. For me, as a contractor, I'm trying to balance both things. I've never lived in Geneva, but I shop at Odalisque Apothecary. I sell clothes at Stitch Switch. Like, I love the town. I've done a lot of work in Oak Park. I've lived in Oak Park, so I really value historic homes. But I'm also a contractor, and I'm trying to think of like what's best for the home, what's best for the homeowner. I worry that approach, although, you know, behooves the committee's desire, is also sort of tripping over dollars to pick up dimes, because that's a now fix for my homeowner, but that doesn't then stop the rest of the boards from continuing to rot. And so you see $34,000 now, but in 10 years when we have to do 15% more boards, does that number start stacking? The real issue is, and I think Jackie, I saw in the rundown, she was going to do a discussion about painting brick. The real issue for me too is the painting of the cedar, because, you know, the cedar really should be stained, and the more paint that goes on the cedar, the less it drains, the slower it takes to dry, and you just kind of
You're
get
going to
more
scrape
rot.
the whole house, right?
I would scrape the whole house, yeah, but I mean, that's as effective as the scraping. I mean, in 1920s, I can't count how many layers of paint are on there, but yeah, scrape the whole house for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I still struggle with going against the existing policy, and that's there for a reason. You know,
Yeah,
there
our mandate is to follow the SOI standards, and the SOI standards are very clear that the first thing is to either repair and restore, and then if it can't be repaired and restored,
Right, if it's technically impossible to restore it, or financially, you know, unfeasible to restore it, then you know, other substitutes could be considered, but
yeah, it's a difficult.
we don't have either of those conditions in this
Right now, we
situation.
have unfortunately, the cost estimate says that it's actually cheaper to repair and restore, and that's what we would want.
It would always, I mean, it would be less money to restore and repair just because it's less material, less labor as well.
Correct, but that's our mandate at this point to do that. So it's very difficult to go against that.
Right.
Are you looking at that in
specific-
totality or per square, like square footage, the cost to repair versus the square footage to do total
Well,
replacement?
it's just that
Preservation.
the preservation, what our SOI standards state is that first you have to, the first step would be to either repair and restore it, and then if it can't be repaired or restored, or it was financially infeasible to repair and restore it, then we could look at a substitute material. But
Is LP approved by the city as a
The-
viable material?
the LP Smart side is,
There's been a lot of issues and a lot, if you look at the technical journals on that material and its propensity to absorb moisture, or class action suits in the late 90s on it. And I'm kind of surprised to see that so the city building department has approved this?
we've approved, the two types of siding replacements we've approved are the hardy board
And LP.
and the LP.
Well,
Smart side.
that's apples and oranges, but then we're just doing vinyl on this garage, so.
Yeah, but that's a
I'm really
new structure,
confused.
that's
That's a new
the
So that,
difference.
the bets are off on, so there's other options for new construction? So
New
you could
construction
go
as a-
aluminum or,
Well,
But there's a lot with that one too,
It's a
George, because
secondary.
the structure, it's new, it's a garage, it's not
well, but it's in the
contributing.
district, so
But it's
there's not
way in the back.
limited. Well, whether, regardless of its position, there's not one set of materials then approved for use in the historic district?
the approval is for new material,
Yeah,
for new construction
It's different.
is different. So,
There's a lot of non-contributing new construction
Right,
that has
but
vinyl.
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
That-
if you remember,
that's,
didn't we have like those little townhouse units that they came in front of us and they're, was all gonna be new construction, with an existing home on the property, but the new ones were gonna be, surrounding the outside, and that was a whole different ballgame too.
Okay. Well, in my mind, the biggest question is this viable to be repaired? A lot of times we get submissions saying that the percentages are similar, and again, kudos on the work you did on that presentation. That's exactly what I was looking for, and I think most of the commission. But the issue that usually comes up, this percentage is need of repair, but it really isn't viable. It isn't a viable option because of the condition of the material, so.
Yeah, I can't think of a non-viable condition, like, I think just about every cladding can be repaired. I don't think, to me, that's not as much as the issue is, for me, the issue is looking at the long-term ownership of my homeowner
Right,
and potential
right.
owners down the line,
Right.
and what is cost-effective up front. And the LP, I'm not an LP spokesperson by any means, but
Right.
that was a 30-year-old lawsuit. Hardy fails a lot as well.
Right.
The LP, the real issue with that is not painting the edges. So
Right.
the LP, when I say per manufacturer suggestion, is because if there were ever to be a warranty claim, they would come and check my edges. And I mean even my gap seam edges. If those are not painted on the edges, then warranty is null and void. So when I install the product, I do it to manufacturer suggestion so that we eliminate that type of extra water absorption. And the product's just improved over the last 30 years quite a bit as well. But to answer your question, like, if we're just being honest, what can't be repaired?
Well,
I mean, everything in its some shape or form can be repaired, and I agree with that, and I like that approach. I'm up here kind of like, standing up for my homeowner who would like new siding, who would like no maintenance siding, who would like siding that looks beautiful and is of a natural material and not have to have kind of like a Band-Aid repaired home and then call me back in 5 years to do another 10%, and then call me back in 7 years to do another 8%, et cetera.
Well, the general issue is, yes, you're right. You could repair anything if you put enough money into it. And a lot of the repairs that we've been presented over, at least in my tenure, the cost of removing boards and fitting new ones, it drove the cost much higher than any of these other viable alternatives. So this is atypical from what I've seen, where the repair cost was substantially less than a new material.
Sure, yeah. I wonder though how much of that other is sales tactic because they want to get full siding
Well,
that was pushed through.
All right, we get a lot of cost estimates where it's like 100% is bad.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
is
I just want to come up here and
Yes.
be honest, and when I
Right.
leave the door with whether you approve or deny, I know I was honest.
Right.
I still stand by LP, I still stand by doing the whole house, I still stand by my homeowner, clearly.
Right.
But I would think I know that if I'm replacing, 58 or 57% of the board scraping and painting, I know what the homeowner has gotten painting costs, right? So we know what the painting costs would be,
Right.
now the additional labor. The issue to me is aesthetic, and you sound like a man who is very concerned about the aesthetics. Modern cedar coming out of a mill yard is not beveled the same way, it's not shaped the same way, and I worry that from the street, we would be able to, sure, scraped, sure, primed, sure, painted, we'd still be able to see certain exposures that go, well, my eye is detecting that that's a little bit different.
There are other too, as you know, viable advantages for replacement. Number one, you can put in vapor barrier.
I can.
Additional insulation.
Yes, and diamond coat
depending on
vapor
this.
barrier.
Yes.
A ridge
So,
vapor
yeah,
barrier.
you can't get at it unless you're pulling it off.
Correct.
And so there are other benefits, but again, if the commission's mission is to preserve existing materials and the cost is substantially less than new material, I don't see where we really have an option on
One
this
place that I may have screwed up in looking is that the large number that you saw is also including soffit fascia and gutters. The 62 number is including a full house. And the repair is not including gutters or anything like that. That money is talking about specifically repairing bad wood. So had I maybe realized that that was the case and gave a better price breakdown to show you what softening costs, what fascias cost, what gutters cost, what downspouts cost, those prices would get closer to each other. I still think the repair would be less. It's just less labor and less material. But it wouldn't be double or what you're seeing now. Because I'm not proposing to replace softening, full fascia, full gutter guards, et cetera, on a repair. So now talking it through with you, the numbers might be a little misleading. So I'd love an opportunity then, if that's the case, to come back with a more precise price breakdown so you can see what a like for like is.
I guess we could, as long as they're about equal though, it's never gonna, we have to follow the SOI standards, so that's our mandate, is to follow those SOI standards, and we have to stand up for those, and I think that I think you're more honest than most people I've dealt with when it comes to that sort of thing, so.
That's why we're shocked.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be financially infeasible, that's basically.
I mean, I can do
If
some
these numbers
creative
were
accounting
flipped.
if you
Yeah, I
Too
know.
late.
needed.
Right, but that's what, a lot of contractors do. They,
Yeah.
they realize that, well, I'll just bump up the repair cost to something astronomical and.
Well, my incorporation goes back to 1993. My company is K&S, that's Katie and Steve, my mom and dad. Like, my reputation matters more than anything. I'm not gonna come in here and lie to you. I'm not. I still stand by what I think, and I still think that the best thing for that home, nothing's being changed architecturally. The architectural components of the angle fascia and soffits are still in place, the same size for the exposure, same size trim boards, everything maintains the same. I still think that's what's best for the home and my homeowner.
Well, regardless of how we vote today, I mean, I would love to see you come back with other clients, with reasonable repair estimates for them also, because I think there's, we're sorely lacking in that area here in our historic district.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that.
So, I guess we have a couple of choices here. We can, what I'm picking up is that I don't think that we can approve this today, but we could leave it open and have you come back next month if you want to look at what you've got but with the caveat that, again, our mandate is to do what we're talking about. And so I think that's the difficult part about it. Does the commission
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah, so I mean, if the smart side comes in and it's still higher,
Higher, it's
even if
still,
it's like $5,000, it's,
it's still,
you know,
it would
we're
have to
gonna struggle
be,
with that.
it's upside down now, and so I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, that's where we're at with it. But we definitely could continue it to the next time if you'd like to have a little more time to sharpen your pencil or look at things, but
Although I've heard that siding regulations are changing by next month, so I will probably prepare different altogether.
The only thing you were missing from the application was how much the cedar would cost with the new one moving forward.
Oh, which was 6 figures to redo it all
In cedar.
in real
in real cedar.
and
Yeah.
stain it.
Yes.
Like I will stand on stain it because the paint. The reason we build. I don't need to tell you this. The reason we use cedar is because it dries quickly. Pine stays wet forever. It rots. And when you paint cedar, you close its porous nature. It holds water. It doesn't drain. It rots. So if we could get every homeowner on the planet to stain cedar, houses would be beautiful and they last forever. But they don't because painting's much cheaper. And everybody wants a green house or a gray house or a blue house. So they paint, and then they paint, and then they paint, and then they paint, and then the cedar rots. And I guess I could wait 4 more years or 6 more years and come back and have more boards that need to replace in front of you and get over the threshold of replacement at that point. But
well, this siding is 100 years old, I'm assuming.
yeah,
So,
I think so too.
you know, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and-
pretty
and-
good.
It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
It
It's
it
pretty
is
good.
kind of made it through.
Lots of unpulled permitting for additions though too. There's a massive addition put on the back. The homeowner did pull a permit for the front
Yeah,
sort of
for-
entryway, but there's a massive addition on the back. The neighbor has a painted chimney, a brick chimney. I don't know, it was a weird kind of like section of Geneva to really understand what was meant to be preserved and not.
But
I guess it was moved forward. She told me anecdotally the neighbor owned whoever originally owned her
Yeah.
neighbor's home owned the home.
You are right. It used to be a barn.
Yeah,
So at 501 South Street,
Yeah.
when Mrs. Ashby lived there, and their family owned the home for about 100 years.
wow.
It was their carriage house. And then they divided off the property and sold it. And then the carriage house or barn was set back a little way. So
Yeah.
that's why from the front of it, if you look at it, at the top, you can see that little square opening.
Yeah.
I believe that was the original door where they would release the bale
Wow.
of hay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was originally a barn or a carriage house.
Yeah, it's got interesting history, she was telling me. She was
Mhm.
actually a referral from another home I did, non-historic district, on Willow. Christina Chatfield, I did her and Lloyd's house many years ago, and it was a referral, so. Yeah, so I was getting a little bit of the history when I was sitting at her kitchen table talking to her. It was a very interesting building.
The house on 501 South Street is just unbelievable. It's just very beautiful, and it has a lot of the original features to it. So it was just neat to see that this was actually part of that property at one time.
Yeah, really interesting.
Are you doing the garage also?
I am not. She wanted a price to scrape. I gave her a price to replace. It was a little bit too much money for the garage. I think she was hoping at one point in time to come to you to see if she could knock it down. I don't think the garage is contributing. I'm not sure. But she wanted a price.
It is old, it was new enough that you could do anything she wants to.
Okay, good,
to
yeah.
that.
Because she wanted me to scrape and paint, give her a price to scrape and paint it as well, just because she wanted it to match what we were hopefully going to do to the home.
Actually, I think the garage was already finished.
No, there's a 2-car garage in the back.
Yep.
Yeah, so the original one
Oh, the original
was
one,
demolished,
yeah.
so the one that's there today is
Yeah.
It's
Well-
not historic.
Yeah.
Even, what is that, 8 to 16 years, it's not in great shape.
No, that, so I guess we should, do you want to go back to the homeowner and talk to her about this, or do you want us to, what's your, I mean.
Well, without putting my foot in my mouth, I know that the woman does not want to put money into repair. I think she'd rather just live with it.
Okay,
unfortunately. She just like, for her sake too, like I said, you know, my dad always said, don't trip over dollars to pick up dimes. She said, well, it's still $35,000-$40,000 to basically get what I don't want. So I don't think she would move forward with that. But I would like to go back to give you a more accurate price breakdown. And so even if it establishes a relationship with you guys, you can see like what I was looking at, how I was looking at it, what the actual price like for the boards that I need to replace versus the boards on the LP cost would be. Because that price, that larger number does consists of considerably more work.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, I think we just get we have to have a motion to reject then, right?
Technically, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I always thought the motion.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, would you want to do the presentation in a way like we would use this exact house? Give another estimate, because, you know, we could obviously put a pause on this, come back next month. You could do that, or we could, you know, approve, we could approve or deny the motion, and then, like, you could send an email that I could send to the commission as well.
Well, I'm a man of hope, so I'd like to keep it open.
Let's do it.
could we also then get a quote for if you were to do the house in the cedar? Would
I
that
already
be-
have one made, I just
Okay.
wasn't necessary, I
Okay.
guess,
Okay.
for this
Okay.
iteration. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because we'd like to see that too.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think what we would do is just continue this until next month, and
Correct.
we'll discuss it.
Okay, so next month what I'll come with is I will relook at my numbers to repair. I'm not a mathematician, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong by much if I am, but I might be wrong. I will then provide a full price breakdown on all components, citing that 62 number included shake, that's a more expensive product. I will go more like for like, and I will give you a price breakdown on soft fitting, fascia, gutters, trim, siding, et cetera, so you can kind of see. And then I will provide an inclusive price on to just do the whole thing brand new, cedar, stained, gorgeous, let it live for another 120 years.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I would note is you were talking about having a different siding above the belt line, above a belt line, and I don't think that would fly in this, because we would want to have it come back the same character.
Unless there was some, photographic information
evidence
that said that there
showed
was
that
shakes there
whatever
at some
happened
point.
was like that.
There's not. No. I know it's not. It was that she was just that front gable of there above those two windows. First of all, those shutters are vinyl. They're terrible. She wants to remove those and do those in cedar stained. I do those pretty consistently, just like on their own. I sell handcrafts cedar shutters in field and install, and then cut a belly band across that where the freeze board is. Put shake above it. It was just a design element that she liked. She was not married to it.
Yeah.
The one thing that she did want though is darker colors. She doesn't love.
Again, colors are not anything
Yeah.
that we have
Okay,
purview over.
okay.
Don't open that can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't say the word colors.
yeah.
Well, no,
It's not really a can for us, to open it, because we don't have anything.
we don't have anything to say about colors. So the only type of colors we would have anything to say with, if you had a pre-finished metal roof, we'd have something to say about a color of a pre-finished metal roof. But, yeah, even the shutters, those are considered removable, so we don't really have a lot to say about that either. Or we don't have anything to say about that. So, with that,
I think you have different concerns than we do.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
have the
and I
long-term
understand your
concerns of your
concerns.
client. We have a totally different set, so, hopefully she understands that too. And,
Yeah, and from your
I
perspective,
mean, when she's in the historic district and there's policies, that's the way it is.
yeah, you guys are friendly. I've sat in Oak Park meetings before. They're rough.
We try not to be rough.
And I mean, those things are like as simple as like you bought the house, but you can't afford the house.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like if you're not willing to do what's needed for a historic house, then don't own the historic house. So like, I get where you're coming from. I do. It's not like I'm oblivious to that. I'm in business and I take care of my homeowners, and that's my first concern as my homeowner.
Great. Well, thank you. We will, I think we just can we just leave this open then?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
We will leave it open and we'll see you next month then.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate your.
The 22nd.
Oh, good. I'm gone to the 15th. Okay. All right. We'll see you next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we do have the siding policy review time.
Yeah, who wants to talk about siding?
Let's talk about siding.
Did everyone, I assume, had a chance to look at it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I need thoughts, feelings, opinions, corrections, improvements, everything.
I need to take a break first. But you guys can go ahead.
Yes.
I'm just giving my notes.
You know, the only thing, and, you know, maybe this is off a meeting, but I still could not find that checklist in your submit. I found the policy, I looked, and after your second email, it wasn't in those attachments, at least the ones I got.
So we got the policy.
Yeah, I didn't see
And
anything that resembled a
this-
checklist.
This is it's like a little makeshift checklist, but that's what it's essentially the same.
Oh, so
Verbiage, same
it
copy.
wasn't the checklist,
Yes.
okay. I was looking for literally, not figuratively,
Well, because
okay.
this is totally personal. I hate making edits on a PDF. I really do. So I sent it
Okay.
as Word so you guys could have it. But
Okay, well, that explains our dialogue then.
Do you have it available, Jackie, you can put it on the screen or not?
oh,
If you don't, that's fine, too. I did review it, I'm trying to think what I was thinking about.
I do not, but I have the.
From my perspective, and it's just a different working way, that's what I was hoping, is that we'd actually create something, throw it out there,
Yeah.
see how it flies the first couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and tweak it from there,
Perfect.
rather than just work on I mean, architects are trained to work graphically anyway, and so I'd rather see it in action
Right.
than, but I did read through it, and
Okay.
it seemed reasonable, but I think the proof is in the pudding. I'd like to see how this shakes out.
Okay.
You need this back?
I think I
Is this
might
your
actually. I'm
copy?
so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
In terms of the checklist, I think something that we were lacking at the first set of the policy was estimates. And I think that with the checklist, that really nails down like, hey, we would like to have two, just to confirm, you know, what you think. That's something that's addressed in, the new, policy, or the new, checklist. I also think something that I know that you guys had voiced was, having an actual percentage of what is considered, I guess, fixable versus what is not. So that's not necessarily addressed in, what is addressed in the checklist, but that's more addressed in the actual policy. And I believe it's 51%.
I think that gentleman's presentation tonight
Oh, his was
can
good.
that, and
Have
that
everyone do
again,
that, yeah.
visually,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Absolutely
what I
use
was
that as
always
a sample.
looking for,
Yeah.
was an actual survey. And a survey should be, to some degree, graphic.
Yeah.
That was
So you know, and, I mean, in there, you have the opportunity, whether you do it by hand or not, it could be rough elevations, but just indicative. And
Right.
generally, it doesn't fail
Yeah.
completely uniformly over, you know, you have a leak in the flashing somewhere.
Right.
Or there's areas that are concentrated to identify, like we got into with the parsonage on that.
Yes.
There were parts that were much more damaged than
Correct.
others.
Right.
So to visually see, because we even talked about there salvaging some of the material, putting it on the other elevation, which would have saved them. So yeah, if we could see a graphic thing rather than 58% doesn't tell me
Right.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Where is it? How much? What elevation? And this gentleman, you know, that's what I thought. I thought you got together with him
I did.
before.
When you he had came and you had emailed me. You're like, hey, maybe we could see if he could do it that way, and he was more than willing.
That's what
Yeah.
I would be
Yeah.
much more comfortable with. I don't know
When-
about you guys, but,
I'm not comfortable with putting a percentage
Right,
in
right,
the
yeah.
policy.
But having
because,
like, okay.
I mean, they can do
Because-
that, and, you know, what this guy did, you know, 10 out of 50 boards or whatever, you know.
right,
and-
it showed the
Right.
location
Right,
and.
that's acceptable, but I don't
Right.
think we can make a decision based on, okay, it's 51%, now we're kind of you know,
Yeah, and-
constrained to like,
Right.
allow them to use a substitute material, because,
I also think you, to your point, I think also, like, let's say hypothetically we were, for tonight, for example, if you were to do, count all the boards instead of individual sections that he did,
Right.
it would look different than, okay, well, this section has 90% of the boards are
Okay.
damaged versus like the 10% on the other side. So I think that's a really good point.
right, I mean, I did the math on here, and like, only 35% of those boards were salvageable.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think his numbers
know.
were a little bit, well, I don't know, it's hard to know.
well, you know, it's interesting though that he brought up the thing that has been bugging me for a long time is if you're in that business, and repping particular products, there may be a propensity to kind of lead the client in that direction, which, you know, this is a hard one, but numerically too, I have never seen, and maybe that is part of our policy. So it's 10 grand more to fix it and to keep the materials. I don't see how
Right, what's-
that automatically
Right.
is
I
a mandate then to remove all the material.
Right.
There
If it
is
was
a-
double,
there is a
maybe,
cost
yeah.
of,
Maintaining a historic home, and that's part of,
exactly,
that's part of
exactly.
the
Maintaining.
cost. And maintaining and like, it would have to be, I don't know where that line of economic and feasibility is. I mean, it.
Well, yeah, that's.
And nobody will give you a number for that.
No,
I mean, you
and
know.
that's not, yeah,
So
that's,
that's why I think maybe a third party, other than a contractor trying to sell product, would be
Well, I
better.
would still like to see a
Well, right.
survey from somebody else.
Because what I'm worried about,
yeah.
word's gonna get out, and everybody's gonna
Right,
say,
it's gonna
it's
come
all gotta
back.
be replaced.
Yeah.
Right.
Then how do you stop that?
Another part of, I did, I kind of workshopped getting a third party out there with the city. The third party would be me.
Well, this guy here, I don't know if he.
Yeah, right.
Has a business, but.
Like, I am comfortable, a big part of my education was working with historic building materials. I am comfortable making an assessment
But
of,
then you need to get up at a scaffold or something, tapping on each
Yeah.
one of the boards. I don't know if we'd want you up there, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, I am pretty precious, you know?
Yeah. You know, yeah.
We just don't wanna have to replace you.
I know.
There's also, you could do a
Yeah.
thermographics survey.
Yeah,
There's a lot of other ways to do this, you know?
I mean, I think that part of that is asking for more than one cost.
Right.
more-
Yeah.
From more than one contractor to
yeah,
get
and,
some.
and even this one
competition
only
maybe.
had one contractor's number
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And it might have been that, if she went to another contractor, he might have said the replacement or the repair would be
Yeah.
a lot more.
But, but that, that yourself though, as a design professional, that's very difficult to do a survey. You can do the survey.
Oh, yeah.
But the estimating,
Yeah,
your estimate, we saw that in the analysis of those other properties. the cost analysis is very difficult unless you get it from a bona fide contractor who's in the business. So, you know, the survey could be independent, but the pricing probably needs to be from contractors.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just theoretical, kind of.
Right, it's just that having a third party or something similar to that prevents a contractor
Right.
or multiple contractors coming in and saying, that's 100% deteriorated,
Right.
can't be done,
Right.
you know.
Or it can be done, but you're gonna spend
Right,
Yeah.
a lot.
Right.
a lot.
I mean, you look at this house that we were just talking about, just from the street, that siding looks pretty decent.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
There, and it is, I did notice that I didn't bring this up during the presentation, because it wasn't, but somebody had put holes in the siding to be able to put in insulation, blown-in insulation.
Oh, okay.
And that probably deteriorated the siding.
Oh,
It helped.
yeah,
That, but it helped them on their heating bill for.
but I still think that massaging this after a few iterations, you know, and a working thing would be a lot easier. I don't think theoretically we're gonna be able to come up with the ideal survey the first time out.
No.
Perfect.
I'd like to talk about
Right.
just a couple of concepts though, and see how everybody feels about, and we've done this in the past, where the front facade of a house maybe has original wood siding on it, and maybe it's deteriorated, and it can be repaired at a cost. But 2 or 3 of the other sides are similarly damaged, but they want to put some kind of substitute material on it. I'd like to get everybody's kind of opinion on, you know, is it acceptable to have 2 different types of siding on a house, and when would that be acceptable?
I think that would be acceptable in my mind, because if you're seeing it, first of all, I think we look at it, we're from a standpoint of a sidewalk survey, if you will. So we're concerned more about the front of the facade and anything visible from the sidewalk, if you will. Now, some of it is very visible from the sidewalk, because it's, you know, you have a wide side that's open, you'll be able to see it.
If you've got a big yard, you'll be able
Big
to see
a
the
yard, you'll
side
be
of the
able to
house.
see the side of the house. And like that, for example, that garage, I know you won't see anything but that front,
that
because
front.
it's so far back and everything is
I'm
closed in.
gonna take my camera after this.
Yeah, you're gonna go see it.
Well, it's been torn down, so you won't be able to
No,
know.
the new one, you know, I'm gonna take my camera on that.
A
but-
little sliver on your
but
photo doesn't
what
count.
was Michael always saying, something about the shadow line or something?
Well, he was talking about back to the first break, basically. So when you've got a house that's got multiple, like, it's not a good example of the one with, the one on Hamilton there, but if you've got you go back to the first part where a bay comes in or comes out
Right,
or something
right.
like that. And then so you basically are doing the front of the house to the first break, if you
Yes,
will.
because I mean, at your line of perspective, as you're
Yeah,
marching
by-
by, you're gonna see more than just the front.
Yeah.
You are gonna catch a glimpse, unless you plant a lot of bushes, I guess.
Well, and I think
but,
it's looking for an inside corner to be able to
but
make that
I
transition.
can see, yeah, the materials don't, but there has to be some semblance of matching.
Yes,
If there is, yeah, I would agree with that, but you can't just do literally one type of material, wrap around with something
Something else.
totally egregious on
Right.
the other sides, even if it hits that first break line. But we have to be careful about that too, and a lot of times I'm still not seeing Michael knows that was one of my pet peeves on site plans. You know, now this one on the review should have had a roof plan. Because you're talking about all the different, you know, there's so many ridges on that thing.
Oh, on the
And
one
it
in
was hard
Hamilton?
for me to see how that integrated,
Yes.
other than on the elevations. You can't use, as you know, two-dimensional documentation to represent three-dimensional imagery.
I think he's talking about the
Yeah.
concept.
And now, anything that's CAD generated, you can, even these here, had generated some perspectives
Yeah.
or modeling. You know, I think we should insist on some kind of modeling representation from a level of perspective of a person's visibility. Floating in space somewhere, you're never gonna review it at that level. But eye level at the sidewalk is definitely important for a perspective to be able to see that. And I think this would have been an easier sell if I could have seen a roof plans.
Yeah.
The second floor was irrelevant to me in terms of the room layout.
But I think though that would be a good thing to get, and I think as we go farther along, I was shocked we didn't see a 3D version of that. It's probably not done in Revit, so it's not done or SketchUp, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing that too is going back, but yeah, there'll be new curb cuts for those garages. And
Correct.
I was wondering about the slope through the sidewalk there,
Yeah.
how grade is being handled. There's some other issues with those that we did not see.
Yeah, it was a concept to submittal too.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we were going with that. But I think on the siding policy, I think I agree that I think you've captured a lot of what we want on this, because it's documenting the existing conditions and then the new site, what you plan on
Yeah.
putting back.
We're trying to determine how bad it is
And
and
how,
how it could be repaired, or if that is our primary goal,
Yeah.
is to preserve the materials, not just a substitution.
Right.
I think a first case, based on the standards, is, you know,
And-
under,
Repair.
yeah,
And I think that,
and preservation.
right, I think that scenario, the repair preservation scenario, needs to have its own section or subsection. It needs to be, you know, called out more in our policy
Well-
as our preference as a city and a preference from the
Yeah.
Secretary of Interior.
Well, and I don't mean to belabor this, but, you know, there's an inherent danger. I survey the existing. A certain percentage of materials need to be removed. I say, fine, I'm gonna repair it. I put in more new stuff. There's 3 boards left of the old stuff. What have you really done? You really have changed the whole character of, so it's not only repair on that replacement part, how much physically needs to be, if it's all new boards, and what is it now? He was saying he wasn't gonna use cedar, right? He was gonna use pine or something?
No, he was gonna use cedar.
he was gonna
saying
go back.
it was so much cheaper. He lost me on that part.
Well, there was a submittal that he had it done, a cost estimate to put it back as cedar, but he didn't include that cost estimate. So he had that one
Okay.
done. He had this repair and replace what's broken, and then he has LP
With cedar.
Smart Site.
But the percentage was it was over 50%. So 50% would be new cedar anyway?
Well, and see, he was assuming that, I think when he was repairing, he wasn't taking the whole board out, but his but his number included taking the whole board out.
But it's a dry, yeah, so I wasn't, the methodology, so that would be, I think that is important for us to understand. Is this gonna be just caulked and scraped and
Yeah.
some more nails added? Or is the board actually going to be removed and something else put in its place? I
Yeah.
think that is an important issue.
Yeah,
And is that something you want to see? Never, I just answered my own
Well,
question.
it
Okay.
doesn't have to be visual, I don't think we need a section, but
Yeah, I
a
was-
description in terms of how the methodology
Right.
for whatever they're doing.
Right,
So-
and he can use, I think, use of epoxy to repair some damaged
Right.
areas is acceptable. You can
Whatever
cut
he
out
wants,
a certain, you know.
amount, yeah.
There's
I'd
a
be
way to
happy if we
repair it.
just got, is it getting caulked or removed? I think, you
Yeah.
know, and then we're gonna hear, well, you know, that'll depend on when we get out there and start pulling boards, what it really, you know.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the one thing about the siding policy that I see right now is it does reference his SOI standards. What I don't see is that specifically that this list of where it says repair, replace, cover, replace, non-historic, new construction, or replace, it's kind of like a hierarchy of first, the first one is repair painting of siding or architectural details is really what we want them to do if you can. And then we kind of want to rank those, and they're kind of in the rank, the order that they are, but it's not explicit that
Right.
we want to, that the rank is important.
That's where we got into it with that parsonage. That's exactly
Yeah.
how that started. We
Yeah.
were gonna repair to begin with, they pulled off pieces, and then it migrated into an entirely different project.
Yeah. So,
And in
So-
some cases, that's still gonna happen to us, I mean, in existing conditions, until you get out there and pull off the boards, you may not know.
Right.
And then I don't know what our provision is for that, should that condition change in the field.
yeah, and I go back to the, when we had the gentleman that owns,
Oh, Stockholm.
Stockholm's.
Yeah.
We allowed that because we trusted that he had looked at that. And it's a slippery slope on that sort of thing.
Yeah. And photo documentation certainly can help.
Definitely.
Well, and I think that's where I think the checklist helps, because
Yeah.
it's a written request, and then you provide photographs of each
Right,
structure.
right.
I think I think your checklist is good. I think we just need the siding policy needs to,
Well, and with the encouragement, I guess, that the greater the documentation on the submitted, the better chance there is for some action on it.
Right.
correct.
So this is what I have so far. Obviously, I'm going to remove the percentage from the siding policy. She's gone. Okay. Do you want me to kind of put more into the checklist in terms of like methodology? Because I think right now it just briefly says like, are you going to scrape whatever? Is that something you want me to add back into the siding
No,
policy?
but, I mean, it would be nice if on that, I mean, how I would do it, in notation, since you had the elevations on there and identified the materials, usually just notes on the drawings generally cover, what he's gonna do there. This portion is gonna be caulked, scraped, and painted, that this area looks like replacement of whatever. You could just do some general notation on the construction documents. or do it as a separate spec.
Okay.
But, we still need to know locations.
Definitely, all right. As far as the third party, guys, I'll keep working on it for you, I promise, I'll figure something out.
Yeah, that's gonna be a difficult one, because
Yeah.
it's really,
Yeah.
to get an expert at that
To
is,
do that.
I'll get up on a ladder, guys, just let me know.
Oh,
Okay.
I will work on that. I don't think we necessarily have to vote on the checklist, but if this is something that you want to see before we actually make a final move, would we have to?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Do a beta test on it and see how it flies.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
you're
think
the
so.
you're the one putting it together.
Now
If
this-
it looks good to you.
yeah, the siding
You know.
policy itself, is that something that, is that in the code, or is it just a separate item altogether?
Great question. The code overall is essentially says, we're here to preserve as much original material. And then I guess how we go about preserving that original material is the policy. So the answer is kind of, which
Okay.
isn't helpful, but
It sounds to me like we could, the checklist is no problem, but the policy might want to be something that we
okay.
physically,
Revisit.
or we actually affirm through a vote.
Well, and I think diminishing the cost part of it for the preservation part would be a better way to go. I mean, you're right, we were losing it there. He's saying it's cheaper to save the stuff.
Yeah.
Then I'm kind of wondering after the fact, why are we even discussing then
Yeah.
any other options?
Yeah, I know.
Because,
It's a no-brainer, right?
Right.
It's a no-brainer. It is a
so,
no-brainer.
yeah, it's cheaper and so this was just based on owner preference then?
It was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless
So
he
that-
comes back with new numbers and,
Well, I'm quite
you know,
sure
hopefully they're,
they'll
you
be
know,
different, but,
they'll be different. Hopefully they're
Well,
not too
as
different.
long as
Yeah.
they're roughly this, if
Right.
they're,
Right.
if it's apples to apples,
We're gonna preserve.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that would be the policy thing, to really hammer what that goal is. That'll avoid a lot of confusion. But-
and that's, I think, what's missing out of our, it does reference the SOI standards.
Right.
But I think that
We just need to hammer that more.
hammer that
But-
down
Make
more
that-
and say, and maybe
Use the
even
explicit language from
from
the
the SOI
preservation
standards
brief.
that
you know.
you should salvage and repair at all.
But that-
That should be the first
Priority.
line.
The added complexity, though, is that about building ramps and vapor barriers and
Yeah.
that we had another one a couple months ago that also came up. And I think we're gonna see more and more of that. And even our standards, really, I don't see as a strong kind of reception to the fact that energy is an issue and that there, I think there needs to be increased sensitivity to that, but that parsonage brought that out too. Well, how,
Oh, yeah.
if we don't take the stuff off, how are we gonna insulate this thing? And we can't get it from the inside, and that is a real issue.
Yeah,
So,
I have a couple of things before we go on.
Oh, yeah.
Just on the policy itself. In that first paragraph where you talk about the contributing buildings in the architectural survey, I think that we're gonna have a new survey
We will.
soon,
Right.
right? And so there may be some buildings that change from,
right,
contributing to non-contributing or vice versa, or, significant versus contributing. So a little more detail about that, and so that a homeowner can go, for instance, to a map that shows that. I think that would be helpful to include there.
that was gonna be something I brought up. I definitely wanna add that obviously I would like to have the siding policy out, not like sooner than rush, but like, I think the siding policy will come out before the survey. Also, we are gonna be working with GIS to essentially have a really cool survey come out that homeowners can reference their contributing status. So once we have that, adding about contributing or non-contributing in more detail will be definitely added to the siding policy. But I think ideally we'll have the siding policy, you guys will vote on it, and then we can always amend it. So, to add the contributing, what you're wanting to, so.
Yeah. On the second page, I just have a couple of things that I wrote down here. That in the second paragraph, where it talks about artificial or synthetic materials such as aluminum, steel, vinyl, EIF on buildings that predate their common usage are not good substitutes for historic materials and generally will not be permitted. I think that's kind of too strong a language at this point in time, given
Maybe
what the
use
preservation brief
yeah,
16
use the
says.
verbiage from that.
Have all you guys read that preservation brief and are familiar with
It
that?
started, I haven't finished it yet, but
Okay.
yeah. We'll go back.
I mean, I've read it several times, and it's, you know, it was revised in 2023, and I think it presents a different picture about acceptable, when to use substitute materials and which ones are acceptable and where they're acceptable. So, and I think some of it is
And
in
it breaks it
contradiction
down.
to our existing policy.
To the material, like if it
Yeah.
was a wood siding, if it was masonry, and then it
Right.
tells you exactly what.
And there's a chart of
Yeah.
acceptable materials for substitutes, and I think we should be all familiar with that and, you know, maybe use as much of that as we can in making some of our decisions.
Well, yeah, if we get out is to make it as objective as possible, or the subjectivity
Right, right.
is the real, that we spend most of the time on that.
Yeah.
And there's a
lot of
reason
these
for-
things, yeah.
Here's why we decided this, because this is
Right.
what the
Now, that-
Geneva policy is and
But-
what the
yeah.
SOI
But-
policy is.
But that's the reason we have a commission on the other hand. But if we could get a lot of this as objective as possible, I mean, eventually the citing thing could be a staff thing without even coming to us. We're trying to do that with the windows as well. And it's less time consuming for the homeowners. It
And
takes a lot of
And
this,
frustrating.
yeah, you know, and, so that would be my goal anyway, to,
Because I think people come to the commission and they're not really clear
right,
what their requirements are.
yeah,
And a lot of times, I don't think we've been clear about our requirements.
yeah,
Just because, you know, the policy is not, you can't have a policy that addresses every eventuality.
Right.
But you need to be clear about what your preferences are, how to address those preferences, and what your potential approvable options are.
I'd like to spend more time on these design reviews, which are much more, from my perspective, meaningful and impactful than, you know, Hardy Plank or LP. You know.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Is there, you said there was another area that you had, or was it just that one?
I think that was it.
Okay.
Just the fact that we needed a more beefed up and separate section for repair preservation to drive that home.
Yeah, and I think,
The verbiage from the brief, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and I had given Jackie some language that
Okay.
might be useful.
Okay,
So the checklist is yes. We're gonna implement that
Yep.
tomorrow.
yep,
The siding policy, I will come back. Ideally, I'll have the edits down. I would love for you guys to review it, send me your edits before
Okay.
the next meeting. Like,
Sure.
I'll send it out separately, and then I'll take your guys' edits and then put them into the next staff report. So, but I will
I would not want, I would prefer to do the policy and the checklist at the same time. Because in case something changes in the policy, that might affect the checklist. you know,
So when we get citing.
Instead of amending it.
So for the checklist, that just means moving forward that we're only gonna have people with one estimate instead of the two.
Well, are we gonna,
Obviously, I can suggest it, but if we don't have anything that's
Right.
saying like, hey, we only need one, because right now the policy only says one. Or that's not clear, I shouldn't say one, it's not
yeah,
clear.
yeah.
That's where the degree of documentation would
Right.
help.
All right, well, yeah, I'll change my mind then.
So.
Run with that.
Also, everything's changeable, like, we could
Right.
vote on it, and then
Right,
2 weeks later, you can be like, hey, girl, we gotta take it
Yeah.
out, we can do that,
yeah.
so, you guys are the boss.
I'm gonna be out of the country next month, but I'll be,
Well, not out of the country, but I will not be here. I'll
Oh.
still be in the country.
but I have email, so I will be able to get back to you, but I won't be at the next meeting.
I will not either.
Also, if you're out of the country, don't email me.
Oh, well,
Jackie, when's the next meeting again?
Okay, so guys, this is, are we good with the citing policy? Are we good? Any other questions?
I think that's, I think
January
we're,
21st, George.
It's actually not. So,
Okay.
because on February and January, we have,
Oh,
um,
holidays.
holidays,
oh,
that essentially shifts the city council meetings. So the Monday, or the monthly meeting for January and February, they are gonna be pushed to a Wednesday. So the next meeting will be the 22nd. And then add one day to February. I'll send you guys a corrected journal, agenda, but the next meeting for February will be on the Wednesday, the second Wednesday, or the third Wednesday. But I'll send you guys that.
okay, good. Okay,
Um,
if that's the policy review, do you have a secretary's report?
Yeah, essentially that was the meeting dates. They were corrected, or they will be corrected and sent to you guys. I have approved 9 building permits administratively. We had a really cool win with the First Church of Science on 2nd Street, right across from the UUSG.
Yes.
They actually were going for a full roof replacement. They had to go and they were thinking about getting a new chimney or moving the chimney. Come to find out, they got a second opinion and they can just do minor repairs. And
Oh.
it's good. So that was a big win. So, but that's it, guys.
Okay. With that, I will have new business from the commission. Anyone, anything to add? No more? From the public, Al, do you want to step up? I'm sure you do.
I mean, I've been sitting here for 2 hours.
I know.
Best 2 hours of your life, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. I could be home with teenagers, though, you know, there's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Al Watts, Preservation Partners. All I wanted to do is just publicly thank the city, really, on behalf of our members, for enforcing their building code with the blacksmith shop for East State Street. I know that's been a long-term thing, and I'm sure David is probably sick of dealing with it, but that's the way it is. On behalf of our members, just wanted to thank you guys for sticking with that and doing that. Certainly, we are dismayed that it has come to this. I don't think it's necessary, but if this is the only way, then this is what needs to happen. Unfortunately, this is probably the only solution for a demolition by neglect that's possible. Still, the building may just fall down anyway, but at least the city is doing absolutely everything they can, which we appreciate. Hopefully, there'll be some settlement there. Our objective has always been to find a solution that works for both the property owner and for the city that hopefully can also preserve the building as much as possible. So that's always been our goal, and we're solution-minded. So hopefully, this will precipitate some kind of a solution happening sooner rather than later. And we're always a phone call, email away for, conversation to find a solution. So just wanted to basically thank you guys. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming in. With that, if I can get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
It was like a micro.